These are the sights and sounds of Jackson, Mississippi. Friends laughing over fried catfish, birds chirping outside a church, flags flying overhead with symbols that add context as to why manicured lawns quickly turn into some of the poorest parts of the United States.
News 7 weeks 7 we are the beat at that Capitol, streaming online at the beat at that Capitol.com. That's Lil Wayne. And
perhaps one of the rarest sounds you'll hear in the Deep South is two women talking openly about sex and doing it publicly.
If you're an African-American man who has sex with men, or a gay man, then you're in a high-risk category. But let's be candid. Jackson has the 4th highest rate of HIV in the nation. I repeat, the 4th highest HIV rate in the nation. We don't have a movie theater, but we have the 4th highest HIV rate in the nation. So from our perspective, we're in a high-risk area.
That's Deja Abdul-Haqq. She's the director of organizational development for My Brother's Keeper and its extension, Open Arms Healthcare Center. It's a clinic designed to address the alarming rates of new HIV infections in the Deep South, a topic Deja addresses without even speaking.
Tell me about your shirt. What's it say?
It's one of my favorites. Don't wear this to Bible study. It confuses people. Don't ask me how I know. Talk can be the perfect foreplay.
Okay.
In the South, we're really uncomfortable talking about sex.
So you're a child of the South?
Yes.
Sure. When you say you're uncomfortable talking about sex, what's the type of stuff you heard growing up?
Well, as a kid, you know, you didn't get pregnant by keeping Advil between your knees. That was science. That was a fact. I mean, it is the South, and you know, the evangelical South is a real thing, and we really have done a botched job of allowing sexuality and spirituality to be friends, so to speak. So this disconnect is about, I can't be sexual if I'm spiritual, and if I'm spiritual, it's, you know, it's not right to be sexual. But I mean, we're all byproduct, every single one of us, no matter where we came from. You know, I'm not psychic, but I'm a product of sex, and so are you. So everybody's having it, especially here in Mississippi. You have to take into consideration that, again, like I said, our syphilis rates are double national averages. Across the nation, gonorrhea and chlamydia rates have risen. And of course, in Jackson, Mississippi, we have the 4th highest rate of HIV in the nation.
That's a statistic Deja repeats often because the southern states account for 38% of the U.S. population, and yet they bear the highest burden of HIV infection. According to the CDC, 51% of new HIV infections, they happen here. 45% of people living with HIV are here. And 50% of undiagnosed HIV infections are right here. Numbers like these drive initiatives like this.
My budget will ask Democrats and Republicans to make the needed commitment to eliminate the HIV epidemic in the United States within 10 years.
But before Washington attempts to fix the South, Deja says the South should address the stigma surrounding sexuality.
How many kids do you have?
3 boys.
Have you found comfort in having those uncomfortable conversations with them?
When it was time for me to talk to my oldest about sex, first thing I did was talk to his dad. I mean, I know penises, but I don't have a penis. So if you're a penis expert, I think that you should guide the conversation, but he was taking too long. And when my oldest came home, I said, we need to have a discussion. And he walked in on the Woody and the condoms, and of course his eyes got big, and I was like, I need you to know how to put a condom on. So this is how you're supposed to do it. And I did it a couple of times, and I was like, show me.
Right.
Okay?
So to all the grandmothers clutching their pearls out there right now, you know.
If and as uncomfortable as that was, some young man or some young woman is going in to get an HIV test or an STI test, and they're gonna get the news. And though HIV is not a death sentence, it is a life changer. And though STIs are treatable, it's still uncomfortable to know that you didn't give the person that you love with all of your heart the tools they need to be safe. Then I'm doing them a disservice by not talking about it. As a parent, I'm responsible for them. If you give your child the tools, you've done your part. They make their choices, but you at least have to give them options. If you don't have options, you don't have choices.
What could we, the people, do better when we come to approaching sexuality?
I don't understand the investment in the discomfort in someone not being like you. To me, diversity is the fruit of life. So Because you're doing it differently than I am. Why be in such opposition to me because I'm doing it differently? It's hard enough to succeed as it is, being a person of color, being a person of color in the South, being a person of color and being a woman, or being a person of color and being a male and gay. And then when you add STIs or HIV to the mix, it's like it's so much weight. But that can change if you talk about what it's not. HIV is not a death sentence. HIV is not transmittable through touch or conversation. Currently, there is no cure for HIV, but it's completely preventable. So we have the tools that we need in order to just really change the tide of this epidemic in Mississippi, but it does start with a conversation. A fruitful one, not talking about mess and Advil between the knees.
Because talk can be the perfect foreplay.
For a whole lot of stuff.